Hello and good day to you. My name is Nathan and this is part 3 of my Campbell's Grandma House build today. It's all coming together. I'm going to be putting this structure together to the point where we will actually have walls up and vertical and ready for windows and the roof and all sorts of other things. So with all of that in mind, let's get started.
Figure 2 is what I'm going to be working on throughout most of this video. The first thing to do would be to take the deck pieces and line them up. There are 3 sheets of equal size that you butt up edge to edge next to each other, making sure all the script lines are facing the right direction. Now to do this, I got something for you. Bam! Proper wax paper. Now of course I would cut a sheet that's too big for the paper. So I got to cut it down to size so I can actually tape it on top of the elevation. Once I eyeball what I think is a proper square, I put that on top of the paper and get some masking tape and tape all 4 corners of the wax paper on top of the elevation. I do apologize, the camera is acting kind of wonky with that autofocus. It's making me sick too, so you're not alone. Now I get all my pieces of decking back on the paper in preparation of gluing them edge to edge. Now I don't think I've covered this before, but what I use is kind of like a dental pick. You can buy this kit. I got this little kit at Walgreens. It was like $4. And it gets a little mirror too, and a tongue scraper if you really need that, but can't figure what to do with that in modeling. So you dab the glue on and get a straight edge to line everything together, push it in so it's all nice and tight, and get a heavy book to weigh it down so it does not bow. After ample time has passed, I take the heavy book off and use my L square to shimmy that wood right off the paper, and it's a whole lot better than what I was doing before. I will never not have wax paper ever again. However, knowing me and my ways, I'll end up losing it or using it for something else and not have it again. Now digging into the cardboard of the kit, I find the piece of paper that has the second floor platform on it. So I take my straight edge and cut all the long straight pieces that I can to the point where I can get it separated from the main piece of cardboard. Now the instructions note that this second floor platform is supposed to be used as a squaring agent for the entire model to make sure everything is square. But considering how early on when I was placing the boards on top of the elevation, how they were kind of offset, I feel that this will not completely line up. However, against the paper, this sheet lines up just fine. This second floor will be dropped inside of the structure after it's put together. Now it's time to put it all together, starting with the bay windows. Now the walls of the bay windows are slightly longer than the corner pieces that are used to bring it all together. So I have to measure it out. It turns out to be 2 5/8 that it needs to be, but it's like 2 and not 5/8. So I put notches on either end of the wall, and then we'll take the straight edge, line it up, and then make my cut against the bottom of the wall. And now it is even with the corner pieces that will put the walls together. So now I do this with the rest of the bay windows, and guess what? It breaks. It happens. Again, brittle wood. Just super glue it back together and then just go on from there. Now my glue of choice when putting the actual structure together is super glue. While wood glue is great to put all those pieces together, I like to have a little bit more structural integrity, so I feel super glue works best for that. So I start with the fronts of the bay windows, putting the angled corner pieces on both sides of those bay windows. Looking at my first piece, there's still a little bit of an edge at the bottom of the wall of the bay window, so I gotta take a razor blade and shave that off to make sure it's flat. If there's one thing about this kit that is necessary, you need to have flat surfaces, you need to have perfect angles for everything to work. Now we have those sides of the bay windows that I fixed up in the last episode, and the instructions call for gluing the angled corner piece to the right side of 3 of these windows and then to the left side of the other 3 windows, so that you have an open side for each side of the front bay window to have a side bay window attached to. So after all of those are done, it's time to actually put these windows together. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to affix these bay windows on top of the elevation, lining up with the part of the drawing that the bay window associates with, while at the same time making sure these windows are at a 90-degree angle using various items that I feel would make it 90 degrees to make sure they stay put that way. Once I feel they've dried sufficiently, it's time to put the sides of these bay windows on, using the super glue and tacking it to the appropriate side. Finishing up here the last of the 3 bay windows, and it's looking pretty good. So at this point, after they've set and dry, I'm going to peel them off the paper and set them to the side for later, because there's other things I need to do before I put the whole structure together. What I really like about this kit is that they have a 90-degree trim slash wall joining piece that looks like 2 1/16 pieces of wood butted together at opposite corners, and it serves as giving trim to the outside of the wall, as well as serving as a support for the inside of the wall, where most wood structure kits nowadays have the 1/8 supporting bracket at the very end of a wood piece edge that you use to butt up against another piece of wood, and then you slip that 1/16 trim piece in. It's like this one piece of wood encompasses all of that, and I wish a lot more kits would actually use this, and that's one thing I really like about this kit. So I'm setting up the rest of the wall pieces that need to have the trim attached to before anything is done. So here I have pieces of strip wood that are going to be used to support that second floor piece of cardboard that was cut out earlier. So what I'm doing here is cutting them to size based on the elevation, and then I'm going to take the pieces that I can at this moment and attach them to the walls that I've already assembled. There are some that I'll have to wait until they're actually attached to each other or to the other walls to put in place, because if I do it now, chances are it may be too big or too small, and I want to make sure that I have a good fit. Now these trim pieces not only are used to support that second floor, but they also are used as an additional support for the joint at which the walls join together, because that's where the instructions tell you to place these wood pieces. So it kind of reinforces the wall as well, while at the same time serving as a support for the second floor cardboard structure. Now it's time to actually put everything together. So I'm going to start with the left and right bay window and place those on the elevation in the exact spots that are on the drawing. Now I know it's not going to be the exact size, but at the very least I know that this width is the same width as the deck wood that I've already glued together, and it's my intention to stick with that. So here I am putting the pieces together, trying to keep them as straight as possible, using the drawing as a guide for this. Now I'm working on the back wall with the intention of bringing these pieces together in the middle. And if there is a need to cut down a piece of wood to a point where I need it to make sure that these pieces meet flush together, that's done with the middle piece that goes in between these two walls. And it turns out that middle piece is a little too long, so I get some masking tape, because last time I got hosed in trying to cut a piece of wood without that masking tape, and I cut enough wood off to where it will fit on that back end perfectly. With the super glue in place, I fix it to the back wall. Perfect 90-degree angles. Everything is looking great so far. Now I'm building towards the front. Now I didn't put the front bay window on the paper because that's going to be the last thing I put on there. So I start with the front walls that will be adjoined to the deck portion. That's actually the piece of the wall that would have what is considered the front door of this house. And now the other side, bringing those pieces together to the point where the only piece left is that completed bay window. After I'm pretty confident everything is straight as per the drawing, it's time to put the bay window in place. In test fitting the window, it does lean towards the right, so I have to shave down the wall that's on the left side so that the bay window is able to be flush with what I can match it with on the actual elevation. I'm using my L square against that wall to serve as like a platform or a surface that I can cut against, and also to protect my fingers from getting cut by the blade itself, because it's just snug right behind that L square. After that rough cut, it's time to sand down that edge to make sure it's nice and flat. And what you're looking at right now is a prime example as to why I prefer super glue, because that structure, after about 10 or 15 minutes of work, is still hanging together in the place that I left it, and that's all thanks to that super glue. After I test fitted the bay window one more time to make sure it fit properly, I get that super glue out to make the permanent fix to complete the structure and then move on in this project. Once I have the edges affixed, I use whatever angles I can in the drawing to make sure everything is square from the top down. Next step is to add a cross beam that goes from the left and right bay window to support the structure even further. Dab some super glue on the edge and then fix that beam in place. And here's me checking my work, making sure that at least 3 edges of the decking that we put together at the beginning of the video match with the 3 edges of the bay windows that have been assembled. The only concession is the back edge. It doesn't quite match up to the back of the structure, but that's okay because we can get that wood from other parts that will get shaved off later on in the process. And here is the finished result with the second story cardboard in the middle. I had to cut that up a little bit in some of the corners to make sure that it fit properly, but it's looking a little better. It's not as snug as I want it to be, but it's definitely progress from what I had before, and I'm happy with the result that is before me right now.
This is a crucial moment right here, because right now we are at the same place that I left off on the last model. Constructed, painted, and ready for more. Now there are some things that are still the same, like the inside second floor. It still doesn't match with the walls. I don't know why. Maybe there's some shrinkage with the cardboard or something. It just didn't work out that way. Another thing, after the fact, I noticed that one of the walls here was not completely square. This edge right here kind of beveled out in this direction. So I got my Dremel and had to pry this wall off and shave off probably 1/8 of an inch on either side of the wall here, so that I could get it to a point where it would be completely square at a 90-degree angle. Once I got that done, I have a pretty good footprint for what I need to do next. Took the Dremel to some other places too. Cut off the ends here on the roof so it would slope down. Also, I made sure that this whole section right here sloped down evenly as well, because that's all kind of one roof piece eventually. And then there's a couple other things I'm going to do. Probably paint the inside a dark color just so it's not as light. Probably put some dividers here and there so you're not seeing directly through the model. But aside from that, it's looking really well, and I'm very excited for what I have in store next week. Next week, I think I'm gonna cut out the front deck, the side deck here, and just the overall, decking that we did at the first part of the video. Attach that to the base. But before that, I'll need to make the foundation. So I know full well that foundation is not going to match the drawings on the elevation, so I'll have to figure something else out to do. I'll probably just photocopy the bottom of this and then just build my foundation based on those angles. That seems like the most sensible thing to do, and that's what I'm going to do. So tune in next week to see all of that. I might throw a roof on here, I might not, I don't know. But until then, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and do everything you need to do to get to the next video to see where we go with Grandma's house. Until then, see you next time.